So it's a bit rainy today, a bit of water on the lens. This pond behind me with the little island in it, I built that a little while ago, probably going back about 6-7 weeks. At the time I got it to a certain point and I had to get straight on then to go with the infrastructure to get the track in for the building behind me there, which is the toilet block for the customers, and also to build the toilet block itself. All that needed installing. So this pond here was left to fill up and do its own thing, but with autumn approaching it needed a spillway. Now I've modified the existing spillway because the berm that I'm walking on here, which is the constructed berm for the pond that I manufactured all of this with, where are we? All of this with the digger. Quite a big job, took 3 days. Because I couldn't get this berm quite as high as I liked with just a tiddly little 2-ton digger, the back edge of it, so this section, where are we, here, isn't quite as high as I'd like. I mean, it's got about 2 foot of freeboard. It wasn't in risk, but a bit lower than I'd have liked. So I scraped the existing spillway, which is, where are we, around there and over there. That's where the spillway for the pond is. So I took about 8-9 inches off that to add a bit more freeboard, and then with a view to doing a lot more upgrades further along the line, and with autumn approaching and things starting to fill up, I've had to get onto that, and I've actually got that done this week. But I filmed it, so I'll show you what I did with the spillway and the monks and the adjustability of this pond, and how it integrates with the top swale so that I can adjust the water level for this entire top pond, this entire top section of field. So the whole area from, where are we? From there all the way around and over to that barn. Yep, that barn, which isn't ours, but we get the water off the roof of it. That entire area, all the watershed off that now feeds into the top swale and into this pond, or not, depending on what I set the monks for. So we'll have a little look at what I built. So you can see here where this hole is, that's where the swale is going to begin, and it's going to go off in that direction. So it's going to be midway between that swale and that swale. I paced it out, it's about 10 paces each, so within, I don't know, 30-40 centimetres, it's the midpoint between the two, so that'll do. So this is where the basin's going to be, where both the intake pipe and the adjustable monk down to the next swale are both going to be housed, so I can set how much water I want in this swale and this slight divot in the ground. It'll be a bit lower than the swale, but it has to be fairly small because I don't want it to be a full-on pond. It's just there so I can set water levels between them all. So that one's adjustable. This one here I'm making from recycled pipe. This is stuff that we foraged off the beach. I think it's probably waste from the oil industry. There's all sorts of oil infrastructure out there, and a lot of stuff ends up getting wasted at sea. So that's what this is, and I'm going to use this section of blue pipe as a horizontal monk that will be buried in here, and that will set the height for this whole pond. You can see how low it is. I've dug this out a little bit deeper when the digger was here, and that pond goes all the way around and into this. So there's a little island in the middle. This will also be an island before I'm finished, but that's a lot of spade work, so that might have happened by spring. Yes, that's going to set the height here, and I'm going to put another monk there, which is why that's been dug out. But the reason that this has been trenched out deeper, and obviously the spoil still needs dealing with, is because when I was building this pond, I'd have liked to have got another foot of freeboard on the back. There's plenty, but by the time it's settled, I'll probably lost about 6 inches. So I needed to drop the whole level of the pond. This is the emergency spillway for this whole pond system. So I need to, well, I did drop that by about 8-9 inches to bring it down well within safety limits. It was probably safe anyway, it was just to be really certain. So now I'm going to come through here and bury this pipe, which needs connecting up. I mean, it was massive, it was like 3-4 times longer than all both of these pieces together, but I had to cut it to get it into the van. There's only so much I'll have sticking out the back if I'm driving a fairways. So I need to join those two together, which I'm going to use sealant and an old plastic bottle, which again is recycling. It's going to be buried and packed in clay anyway. So alright, time to do some digging. Well, the first phase done. That is a very long trench. I don't know how long it is, but yeah, that took some carving. At this end it wasn't too bad because I was just in the topsoil. You can see I've had to join 3 sections of pipe together. There's a splice there and there's another one there where I've used sections of plastic bottle, white aquarium sealant that's safe for aquatic systems, and then I've used sections of the pipe itself with the slot cut in it just as a clamp to hold it all tight, with sealant layered between it all. And it doesn't matter if it seeps a little bit, it's just going to go down the, seep down the same trench on the outside of the pipe and run into where I want it anyway, so it's not a big deal. It's not like going through a pond berm or something, so it's all good. So yeah, that black pipe is all recycled material. It's not just stuff that didn't need to be made, it's stuff that was actually pulled out of the sea. So yeah, that's a world pollution gain there. So I've got that section made up, which is going to be the monk that's going in there. I'll probably do that next. This end is going to have that blue pipe fitted as a vertical pipe monk, and then all of this is going to be packed with clay. Now, while I was carving, I found originally, you can see just down in there, that's where the land drain comes in. It flowed through here originally, and down here. I've done the same thing here. I've packed that with white aquarium sealant. So when I compact this berm with clay, which is all this soil material here, and a little bit of it here, it's really solid clay. That'll get wetted down and I'll tamp it down with a hand tamper and build it up in layers as I go, like I'm doing a pond berm, but I'm going to put more around that. Now if water does seep through here, I've done a keyway of sorts, but you can see there's just, I'm hitting rock everywhere. Now a little bit of seepage isn't a big deal. This is only going to be underwater when the water is very, very high in winter anyway, and it'll tend to seal in. But if a load of water trickles down this way and seeps through, it's not a big deal. Where I don't want it is continue to run down that land drain. So by sealing that, it means that it can't cut a new channel and then wear away and erode and become a major problem. So it's just easier to keep this sealed if it does start to seep a little bit, because obviously I'm onto stone here and I can't. Well, I'll show you quick. You can see the edge of that stone there. That's not the edge of the stone. It continues on this side. I had to hack through that with a pick, and that hurt. And then down here, you can see this is that under there. That's stone, and it continues actually down there where I've actually taken a layer off it. But there's stone underneath that. That's resting on top of rock. So again, I carved with hand tools through that stone. It's got a similar texture to slate. It's not the hardest stone in the world, but when it's 6-7 inches thick and you're having to hit through it with a pick, yeah, that's jarring. That'll take it out of you. There's a few big rocks I pulled out. You can see that one there came out of there. Now I'm size 14 feet, so that's a big rock, so that had to come out, but you can get them 4 or 5 times the size of that easily in this. So I've hit them before with the digger, so that's why I just clipped the end off that and carved through that. Otherwise, it could have been another day just digging out the one rock. So now I need to start backfilling and start filling in once the sealant's gone off a little bit. Got to do that pipe monk end there, fill in this berm, set this spillway, dig out a basin there, because currently that would flow and could potentially run straight down this way on the spillway. I don't want that. I wanted to fill the pond first. So I've got a series of earthworks there, a series of monks there to go in, but that'll make sense as it starts getting built. So backfill most of the trench all the way back as far as here. That's leftover pipe, that's going to get used for another project. This area through here, as I start getting into the heavier clay, has been backfilled and that's been tamped pretty heavily by hand. Hours of work. But before I get to compacting this area, I've got to put the monk on the end, because once this has been filled in, I won't be able to move that pipe end at all. So what I've knocked up, and this is all repurposed stuff, is that's the pipe that I want to take the water away to deal with down to the next swale. See, there's a bit of flex there, but if the water came out at this level, that's lower than I actually want it. So what I've done is I've got this, again is something that's recycled. This was a leftover from another project. And even for that project, it was found in the side of the road when it had fallen off the back of a lorry months before. I kept an eye on it, no one came back for it, so I had it. So I've cut a hole in that so that that pipe will just fit straight in. Now as it goes, it's quite a tight fit, so it's not an issue, but because I didn't know that when I was manufacturing the bits, I've also made that with a groove with a slot in it. It'll fit on this pipe back here, so that'll give me, and that's more or less shaped to fit that there. So that'll give me a shoulder to butt this up against, so I can get a better sealant bead around the outside of it. Now for sealant, in most places I've used aquarium safe sealant, so that it's non-toxic for aquatic life. But for this, I need something that, because I've got to pack clay around this whole construction. Once this is in place and it's all connected up and glued, I'm going to be packing clay in this up to about this sort of level, to about an inch away from the top. So I need something that's going to cope with a little bit of flex. This is Sikaflex. Pretty impressive glues. This one was used for the composting toilet, gluing that the vault together. So this was supplied by the manufacturer, and I've got a little bit left. You can see I've got a few inches of tube left, which should be plenty. But I'm just gonna, when the pipe's been put in, I'm gonna run a bead around the inside, and then with that pipe butting up against it, I'm going to do the same thing around the outside there to make a double seal. Not absolutely necessary, I suppose, in the fact that if water leaks, it's still going to stay in this basin, it's not going to go anywhere. You know, the whole thing will just seal up over time anyway, but really it's not going to stop water running down that. But while it's here, I've got the materials, I might as well glue it, and if I'm going to glue it, I might as well make it a proper bond. So that's what we're going to go with. So that's that assembled. That's all sealed in place, all glued up. It's not going to go anywhere. I've got that rock in there just to hold it in place while it sets up, because I want that to sit squarely on that stone, because that's packed into wet clay, and then that'll all have wet clay built around it, and it'll come up to cover the pipe with about a couple of inches left showing above. That monk there is for a separate function. That's so that I can bypass the water coming out of the swale behind me down this monk into the next swale down if I want, or I can I can lower that pipe to the position it's in there, and this still needs cutting down. That's just its default setting, so it's functional while I work out what I'm doing with levels. This pipe, while it's in that position, water before it runs over, spills over and down and away down this pipe, it'll fill the whole pond. But I don't have to fill the whole pond if I don't want to. Yeah, so another step done. So if I put the spirit level on this pipe here, make it perfectly level, that comes out at exactly an inch higher than this pipe here spillway. So when I've got the pipe set vertically like this, the water coming in from that swale will fill this depression here up to a certain level. This is going to be slightly higher behind me, but it's already a little bit higher than the blue pipe, so it'll back flood through the blue pipe and down to the next swale. But if I've got that 90 set lower, water will come in, it'll fill this depression, it'll run through this pipe, it'll flood and fill the entire pond behind me in a great big U shape. Then it'll fill the rest of this basin, and that'll overspill down into the next swale. So just with the nature of the height of this pipe being set perfectly, I knew it was going to be close, but it's better than I expected. With this being set perfectly, it means that everything here is set up exactly as it is. So if I have overland flow fill that pond, it means it'll back flood out of this pipe, even with it in this position, and will black flood up and then go down that pipe and into the swale. And should that pipe get blocked, it'll come up and activate this spillway here, because it's all lower than the back of the boom where it could blow out. So that's the first phase of this round of earthworks done. It's so that is the spillway for this pond system here, which is really low. We haven't had any serious rain in weeks. It's a little bit of drizzle at the moment, but it's nothing to speak of. This is where I've actually dumped water deliberately to make it wet, but this is what it's like generally, and we get quite a heavy dew fall every night, but it's very, very dry, the topsoil. So that is now the emergency spillway for that pond, but also this entire top field. So all of that discharges, well, overland flow, once it's been raining long enough, discharges into this swale. This swale has a 90-degree pipe munk, so that's currently set to drain. So any water landing on this field that ends up in the swale won't build up in the ditch. It'll actually act as a drainage ditch, and it'll spill out through that pipe there. It'll fill this small basin here, which has got 2 pipe munks in. Now, the way it's set currently, the 90-degree swivel is about an inch higher than the blue. That's the one that I've just built. So currently water would build up to a certain level because that berm there that I've packed around the swivel pipe, that's about 3-4 inches higher than the blue pipe, but still several inches lower than this emergency spillway. So as this basin fills, I mean, a little bit will seep through, especially until it's sealed in, but then it'll run down that pipe, get picked up by that black pipe you can see down in there, and that will come out in that basin there next to the other little pipe munk that hasn't been buried yet, that you can just see. But that's if I want to prioritise water going down to the next swale, which hasn't actually been dug yet. That's the next job. But if I swivel this pipe through 90 degrees, that is now significantly lower than the blue pipe munk. So what will happen is, as water runs into this basin here, it'll fill, and this has all been packed with clay, so this small basin here will fill fairly quickly. That water will run through the pipe out the other end and will fill this small pond here, which as you can see is really low, and around the corner and that section there is all the same height, so that'll all come up at the same rate. Once that's up to a certain level, it'll back flood up this pipe. This basin will continue to fill, and it'll activate that blue pipe munk, and that'll overspill down to the next swale. So by adjusting this pipe here, I can decide whether I want all of this overflow from this land here, including the 100% runoff from that barn, which isn't ours. All that water flow, I can decide whether I want to prioritise the swales or whether to fill the pond at the same rate, at which point it'll overspill anyway. So it's all completely adjustable. At the moment it's set so that it'd act, well, at the moment the way it's set, any rain that's overland flow, once we're past a certain point, will fill that pond up and then overspill down through the black pipe and out into that basin. But if I turn that, if I turn that 90, then what happens is, instead of filling the pond, I can prioritise the plantings on the swale. So it gives me a huge amount of adjustability, and I can adjust what I want to do through the course of the winter with individual swales and where I want to go. It means that I can adjust and steer everything from all the waterworks across the whole croft. And this basin here is going to be the starting point for the next swale. It's been placed here so that it's all ready to go. That's the beginnings of the berm for it. Obviously I haven't started carving out the ditch yet. This is all going to be done by hand. That is from a bucket. I filled that just to see if it would retain water, and it is. So this pipe here is going to be sunk in here, straight down to the next swale there, and the 90 swivel on that, and again that will be adjusted. The height of that pipe, that will probably be cut off a good foot off that. So that means I can adjust the water running into this basin, whether I want it to back flood up this swale that's yet to be dug, or whether I want to dump it down to the next swale down. And in time there'll be the same sort of basin there, same sort of pit, that I can make the same decision. So I can choose, and bear in mind that every time we come down to a new swale, be it this one or the next one down, everything uphill of that, I can choose where I want all of the water landing on that section, which swale I want that to go to. So I can prioritise one swale over all the others, I can prioritise all the swales equally, or I can prioritise the ponds. So, or I can just set the whole lot to just drain as much water as possible away, like I would in a major rain event in winter. Yeah, so that's all done. and this, as I said, is the emergency spill. This has all been tamped, because from here to here is new, and it's all been, I mean, it's very, very tamped clay. I've had a sledgehammer on it and I've hammered it all completely compacted, so that will definitely hold up. All of this is going to need seeding, and bear in mind this is just the emergency spillway. It'll probably never ever be used, because all the water will flow through that blue pipe. But if, you know, a load of leaves or something like that was to start plugging it up, with water flow becoming more concentrated, more and more debris gets attracted towards it, and they can get blocked, at which point that'll back flood up, and it'll just come up another few inches, and this spillway will activate before the water is high enough to start compromising the back of that berm. We've got at least 2 foot on the back of that before it becomes an issue, and well, it's 2 foot on that above the level of this spillway. So yeah, that is the new section of earthworks.